Welcome back to A Year and a Day, your journey through the seasons. We're finally here at the winter solstice. So the winter solstice, I'll admit, I felt a little lost when I first began studying for this Year and a Day lesson because the winter solstice is a time shrouded in so many different layers of meaning that it seemed nearly impossible to boil it down to the basics in a way that would resonate with myself, let alone everyone else. So, as you probably know, the winter solstice corresponds with Christmas and Yule, and it seems that any time that there's a pagan and a Christian version of a similar concept, it's easy to find yourself wading in the waters of controversy. If you've done any research at all involving the origins of Christmas, you're probably already well aware of some of the theories attempting to separate fact from fiction around whether or not Christ's birthday was in December and how Christmas could be mingled with pre-existing pagan beliefs and traditions. In my studies, I've learned quite a few interesting perspectives about Yule and Christmas, but still had a hard time finding meaning in it for those like myself who don't necessarily align with Christianity or Celtic paganism. In this segment, I'll first provide a brief recap of what I've learned about the winter holidays, and then I'll proceed to share the beautifully simplistic meaning that I've discovered for myself, one that celebrates not what sets us apart this time of year, but what brings us together as a human family. Let's begin with the bare bones basics of what the winter solstice means scientifically before we even try to go into the complicated layers of spiritual interpretation. Astronomically speaking, the winter solstice, also known as midsummer, which occurs around December 21st here in the northern hemisphere, is the shortest day and the longest night of the year. The word solstice means sun stands still, referring to the way that the sun appears to rise and set in the same place for a few days in a row before reversing its path from south to north. Sunlight is scarce around this time because the sun is making its smallest arc across the sky, in contrast to around the summer solstice in June when it makes its longest journey across the sky each day. So, if you're a visual learner like I am, this will make a whole lot more sense after watching the short animation, which I have linked below this video. So what is Yule? Now, in mainstream Christmas traditions as well as in neo-paganism, you'll notice the word Yule sometimes replacing the terms Christmas or midwinter. Now, I'm quite sure that there are some really beautifully eloquent descriptions of this available on the internet by devout pagans, but for the purpose of this video, I'll provide a brief, watered-down explanation of what I've learned about the origins of the term Yule. It appears that in ancient times, Germanic pagans sometimes referred to the Norse god Odin as Yule, and they celebrated December as his birthday. The term Yuletide refers to the time when this festival was celebrated, between mid-November and early January. And finally, what is Christmas? Now, in our Christmas-obsessed society, it almost seems like a stupid question, but what is Christmas really? It's celebrated as the birth of Jesus Christ, but even many devout Christians question whether or not it was actually his real birthday. In much the same way as what we discussed during our Halloween study, it's believed that early Christians changed the celebration of Christmas to December in order to aid in the transition of pagans converting to Christianity. The traditions of Yule were so deeply rooted in the culture of the common folk in Europe that it would have been impossible to erase it once Christianity took hold. So by celebrating in a similar way, but replacing the pagan sun god with the Christian son of God, the new religion was able to gain more followers. So, what in the world does any of this have to do with nature-based spirituality? Well, the pagan versus Christian views of the winter holidays have always been a controversial subject, and everyone is going to have their own varying opinions and beliefs, which is totally fine. To me, all of these arguments are just terribly interesting to consider and everything, but at the end of the day, my purpose is to strip away the layers of myth and legend and find what's hiding underneath that ties us all together. It's my personal opinion that all of the various mythologies and religions of the ages have evolved out of the essential relationship between the sun and the earth, for the human race would not exist without the two. For this reason, it isn't particularly surprising at all that despite our cultural differences, humans from all walks of life seem to view the darkest time of the year as a great time to honor the things that keep us alive: warmth, light, and gratitude. So at this point in our Year in a Day course, guys, I just feel like I need to reinsert a little disclaimer here just in case I didn't do a great job of explaining this at the very beginning. The purpose of this Year in a Day study is not to teach anyone Wicca. I love Wicca, but I'm not a Wiccan myself, and there are tons of resources on the internet for people who want to specifically learn about that religion. The purpose of this Year in a Day study is not to convince anyone to change their religious beliefs or to change the traditions enjoyed by their families. The idea here is to provide some basic insight on how anyone from any path and any walk of life can insert some nature-based connection back into the festivities. However, in case you're like me and you do enjoy researching the diverse historical and spiritual theories surrounding the holidays, I've created a board on Pinterest where we can share articles, recipes, and projects from any tradition, and you'll find the link to this below this video. Whether you'll be spending your winter holiday season celebrating the birth of Christ, honoring a pagan sun deity, or simply just sharing gifts and quality time with your family, I think we can all agree that this time of year, nature prompts us to cherish our loved ones, to appreciate what keeps us warm and cozy, to share our blessings with others, and to eat, drink, and be merry. So without further ado, let's discuss some of the universal, non-denominational nature symbols and traditions that any of us can bring in during this joyful season. Lighting candles, burning a Yule log, and decorating with strings of lights are ways of honoring light during this dark time of the year. They represent both the return of the sun and the eternal light of the soul within. Even in the very coldest of climates, evergreen plants such as pine and ivy remind us that the earth has life within her still. Decking the halls with these trees and garlands serves as a reminder that the essence of life persists and will return again, even in this dark and dormant time of the year. A wreath on the door of the home is a meaningful gesture during any season. During winter, a circlet of evergreen represents the endless cycle of birth, death, and renewal which permeates nature in every way. It represents the continuous nature of the eternal soul, as well as the sun's cycle around the wheel of the year itself. Green represents the everlasting life in nature. Red is a symbol of the berries and fruit which provide nourishment for us as well as contain the fertile seed of the plant which will be reborn in the spring. White represents the snow that's present for some of us, but it also universally symbolizes the purification and fresh start for the new year to come. Gold symbolizes the warm glow of the sun, which after the solstice will begin to grow strong once again. Alongside the concept that the winter solstice is a sort of birthday party for the sun god or the son of God, whichever, the spirit of giving is significant even without these religious connotations. In this cold, dark time of the year when the earth and sun have turned inward to be reborn, we must rely on one another for warmth and support. We share the blessings that nature has given us with others, knowing that by expressing this genuine generosity, we attract abundance back to ourselves in the coming year as well. So, there we have it, the winter solstice in a nutshell. Very watered down, I know. And I know this time of year is filled with stories and traditions unique to each of us. And I'm just dying to hear all about your beliefs, customs, and meaningful winter holiday experiences. So please do join in the discussion in the comments below, and stay tuned for our journaling prompt, as well as some fun and festive crafts as we approach the winter solstice. So until next time, guys, blessed be. The spirit of giving is a significant. The gift of giving is, even during this dormant. A wreath on the door of a home is a meaningful gesture during